517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control.
This is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast. It is February 26th. It's late at night, and apparently I can't talk. Early morning for me. I'm your host, Timebomb. This is episode 11 of the Star Wars Squadrons podcast. With me always, the other host of the show, Green Fox Leader. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, late night. Looking at what is this? Thursday, and yeah, doing pretty good. Getting late into February, rounding the corner towards March, but yeah, doing all right.
Buddy, we are right here. It's basically Friday for me, so I'm gonna say it's the eve of the Cal Cup Major. I'm very excited. I know the whole community is excited. I think it's completely necessary right now because if you look at the numbers of the game on the Steam charts, if you're into looking at those numbers, you cannot be happy with what you're seeing. So we need a big bump like this on the weekend, buddy.
Yeah. You know, even back before the game came out, you know, casuals are only going to last casual for a little while, and then eventually you're either going to like find a squad to play with and stick around for a bit, or you're going to float on to other games. So kind of the point of that was to have something stable for people to do, you know, throughout a couple years of the game's lifespan, as long as it's up and running from the servers from EA anyways. But yeah, that was kind of the goal of it, and I'm glad it's there to be at least, you know, one of those pillars of something for people to look forward to in the future, you know.
Oh my god, I couldn't even imagine this game without Cal Cup, without having SCL, without having these community-driven competitive events. It would just be a different game right now, and it just wouldn't be fun, I don't think, anyway. For me, anyway, it'd be a different game. Today, on the podcast, I'm very happy to have our guest. He has been casting many different events over the years, and he's done the Cal Cup. He's going to be doing the Cal Cup again this weekend. Please, welcome to the podcast, R1H4. How you doing, buddy?
Doing just fine, sir. How are you doing today?
Hey, not too bad at all.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning over here as well. So it's hey, you know what? It's the eve of the Cal Cup for me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice, man. You just finished up some X-wing tabletop stuff, or what? Why don't you tell us about that?
Oh, sure. Playing a game of Star Wars Legion. It's a tabletop game, tabletop miniatures game by Fantasy Flight Games. And it's something I guess you could say that I started my casting career doing. It's a competitive, competitive game, one-on-one type of thing, sort of like Star Wars 40K, if you want to call it that. And playing in season 6 of the Invader League, if you want to check it out, invaderleague.com. And yeah, they've got a sort of a big 200-person tournament, all sort of playing together across, I don't know, I think 6 different continents. It's a lot of fun.
And that's obviously gone digital in the age of the pandemic and whatnot, right?
Yes, it most certainly has. So yeah, we're all playing on a tabletop simulator these days, but can't wait to get back into a store or a convention where we can play in person. It's usually, you know what, there's a great community around that too. Usually good for a few drinks and some good laughs at each other while we're playing. Yeah,
nice,
good times.
Man. And you said that started your casting career. Why don't you tell us about how long you've been casting for?
Oh boy. No, it's a great question. I think in total, I think we're looking at about 4 years now. So we're, of course, in season 6 of this Invader League. It's been going on for the past 3.5 years now. So started essentially doing that sort of on the side, casting on Twitch with some of the other guys that were sort of involved with that community. And yeah, it's I guess you could say the resume I built so that when Squadrons hit and I decided to dump all my time and effort into that, I could say, hey, here you go. I'm a casting man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. And yeah.
So you were kind of ready for Squadrons when it came out. When you came from that tabletop background, you were excited. Did you play flight games in the past?
Oh man. So yeah, I was definitely born with a flight stick in my hand. I think my first PC game was, I guess officially was the original Wing Commander. I
Nice.
I played it. In fact, the first home computer we had was a Pentium 60. And I had to, if I remember correctly, deturbo the thing in order to actually play Wing Commander. So, like, I had to, yeah. Anyway, manually
That's funny.
configure my computer just to make it slow enough to play the thing.
Old Chris Roberts IP. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Way back in the day, and yeah, played all sorts of flight sims. Of course, Wing Commander. Excuse me, the Wing Commander series into X-wing, Tie Fighter, X-wing versus Tie Fighter, X-wing Alliance, etc. So, for the longest time, and of course, much like most of the folks in that same age range, we all bought into Star Citizen. I think we're looking at 8 years ago now, or however long it's been, right? And I guess sort of waiting for something. And when Star Wars Squadrons was announced, boy howdy, it was it. I hate to I didn't see it coming. The original sort of Battlefront VR special mission that they had was fantastic, and we were all sort of waiting, hotly anticipating what was going to come out from that, and couldn't have asked for a cooler game to come out based on what they did there. So yeah, loving it.
Do you play in VR?
I do. So I've got. I'm a console guy because it just so happened that I already got a PlayStation VR headset as part of a Father's Day gift, and so when it came along, I was like,
nice.
Well, son of a gun, I'm all set to go. I've got a flight stick for my PC. I'll just plug it into the PlayStation. Got the VR headset. I'm ready to go.
Wait, did the flight stick just plug in?
It did. So I
Really?
I accidentally bought the Thrustmaster PlayStation 4 joystick before they sold out of everywhere.
Oh wow.
And then sure enough, I was like, oh, well, son of a, I'll just plug it into my place. I'm all set to go. I did build myself a custom little table to make sure I could actually play it, but
That's awesome.
that was probably the only work I really had to do to get ready for this thing. Oh, I take that back. And grow an awesome mustache. I had the whole crew of the whole Dad Squad crew of in real life buddies I have. We all bought into the game, and we all made sure that we would grow flight instructor mustaches for the launch. It was pretty kick ass.
Well, sir, you must be happy to know that right now you can't see me right now, but I actually have a full mustache right now as well.
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't have it for the first event, but I've been building up. My wife has been hating me the entire for the past 3.5 weeks. But I also have my mustache ready to go for this weekend.
Oh, that's
event.
Amazing. Well, that's something for everyone to look forward to. You can come up to the Cal Cup.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm so excited for this, buddy. I mean, I feel like, just like I was saying off the top, I feel like it's just such a huge event for the community. I think everyone's pretty excited to see how the game changes that Motive has put in over the last week are going to affect the play. So most notably, last week they started making changes to the Starfighters again. They changed. They basically gave the B-wing a slight buff and the Defender a nerf, and they continued that nerf this week hugely on the Defender. Another 35% on the shield regeneration rate, and boost acceleration decreased 6.5, and boost activation cost increased by 28%. Now, I mean, it seems
you can't forget about the A-wing nerf that was in there early on there too.
Oh,
but also, yeah,
you're right. You know what? You're right. I totally forgot about the A-wing. Was that 2 weeks ago now?
I think it may have been, but yeah, just about, maybe 10 days. But either way, yeah. In interceptor balancing all around.
So the A-wing nerf to me was so surprising, especially when the glaring need to nerf the Defender and buff the B-wing. I think the people demand that B-wing buff. But yeah, it's made quite a difference, because apparently the A-wing on all levels is difficult for people, or so it's a tough ship. So I think that was why that's when it made me realize the different player bases and how different ships play in those different player bases, kind of. Because they were saying the Defender wasn't a good ship. It was only a problem in the highest level, and I was like, that blew my mind to hear that.
Well, I mean, I could tell you right now that I've tried to take out that Defender at least a couple of times, and I've just I've just miserably failed at playing that defender well. I have to stick in my sort of bomber TIE fighter, that type of thing. TIE bomber. I could deal with that. And props to all the folks that can make that TIE defender. I try shooting at them, and then I just say, you know what? I'll just keep flying straight. I'll be good. I'll just ignore these guys.
Yeah, you definitely needed to have specific team strategies to deal with defenders. If it was some sort of ion, or having an Y-wing with an ICT, or just whatever it was. Usually you did, but you just had to devote a lot of players. So I mean, it was just tough to stop them. You can't stop them all, like there were teams running 4 defenders. Now, what we're seeing is definitely it's a lot tougher to fly, but there's people who can be really good with it. Like, I feel like I can't remember what it was before. Let's say you got like 20 boosts. Now it's like 16 then, or something like that. Or I can't remember what the scaling is of that, but it's basically been decreased a bit, and also it's tougher to keep your shields going now. So the skill level to fly it is going to be much higher, I think. So those 4 defender teams are probably a lot less likely to be out there.
Yeah, I think in one of the Aces 5 matches, in fact, that we saw on the stream, the last event, in the last Cal Cup events, there was essentially an end phase where they just needed to cap off the MC-75, and it was all TIE defenders, all 5 ships flying in with TIE defenders to just finish it off and just sort of skate around. I do agree. I think
that was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think I made a meme, oops all, instead of oops all berries, oops all TIE defenders, right? I don't think, I would be very surprised to see all 5 pilots flying ships like that at the skill level required to keep those babies flying. I don't think they're going away, but I do think we'll see probably a little bit more of a balanced approach from the Imperial side.
Yeah, I think I feel like there's ways to deal with defenders, and they just become more effective now because of the shield decrease. And I mean, I think we were kind of talking before, we could see more APS on all the defender builds probably, so that's going to take away a little bit of their damage output. If they're dogfighters, they may want to have an ion missile. If they're objective, then they're going to have the APS and probably just something to do damage, like concussion or however they're going about it, right? So it's interesting. We might see a change to that now.
Right, and even last event, the concussion missile cooldown was still absurd on the TIE Defender. I think it was still only a 2-second cooldown on that. Now it's back up to I guess you could say equal to what it is on the X-wing at 6.5.
Is it really?
So I think, yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like I said, I was playing. I think it was Gas the other day, and they were just running some 4 X-wings on us and flying them around like defenders. It was maddening, very difficult build. So we could see people flying more X-wings. X-wings might be back on the menu, boys. That's what we might see out there from the New Republic. We've seen a lot of domination from the Empire. I feel like it seemed like the Empire had a slight advantage at the last Cal Cup event. I don't know what the advanced numbers were, but I would wager that they won most of the matchups they faced. This time, I'm wondering, because of this nerf, if it will be more balanced.
That's a good question.
No, I think I would at least, I would probably say so. I think, at least relatively speaking, right, the X-wing, like you mentioned, is going to see a little bit more flight time. I think you'll probably see more X-wing builds, sort of like what Brunus from Splinter Squadron was running last time around, which was just the full sort of ion stripper build. And then probably a couple others as flight superiority options, when before that was just purely A-wings.
I think you're completely right. There was still people running some Torp strategies last time. I think Torp, you will not see sloops. You're not going to see a lot of torpedo runs. It's going to be a lot more extended phase damage, taking down the shields, getting in there, taking down shield generators, stripping the shields, then taking down shield generators, destroying them, disabling shield gens, then destroying them. That kind of stuff is going to happen, I think, a lot more. And we're going to see some different strategies. I've heard that there's been some B-wing strategies out there, even Green Fox. I heard you would have been brought up a smile through your face. I can't remember who it was. I think Avenger made a video about it in a competitive game. Someone brought out some masked B wings. I think they had 2 support and 3 B wings doing these crazy bomber runs. So yeah, I mean, there's room.
Oh, nice.
I probably mixed up those teams or who it was. I can't remember exactly, but there's room out there for some wild strats. I think so. You got to be ready.
That's cool.
To see some different things. I think teams probably have been keeping some stuff in their back pockets a little bit. To some people, like Galactic Agriculture kind of came out of nowhere. They didn't know about them necessarily. So could there be another team like that? We don't know. There could be a team who comes out of nowhere again. Shout out to Baguette Squadron. Maybe I was talking to some people. They could be someone who will turn some heads. And that's the thing we could talk about. So, I mean, even just talking with Phoenix, he didn't realize that there's a different layout for the tournament. It's 2 group stages. Do you want to talk about that at all here, Green Fox? The different format in this one.
Ooh, yeah. I don't want to dig too much into the details, or I probably by the time people listen to this, we'll be getting on to Saturday and Sunday, so it'll be post-mortem style. But 2 groups this time, and this one's a major, so this one's got 2,000 Canadian bucks on the table instead of just a couple hundred there. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good times this weekend.
Yeah, so it's like the 16 groups, and then 2 teams advance to another 16 groups, and then
yep.
How many advance from there now? That's 2 advance from that second grouping as well. No, I forget. That make 30. That would make 32. So it's only 1 advance from the second grouping.
2 of each
I
group
think
from
so.
group stage 2 will go on. So you'll still have
R1 probably
16. I'm reading it right here, sir. No problem. And yeah, that top 16 will still advance to single limbs on Sunday.
There we go. So that's very exciting for it. Just a different format, but I mean, yeah. So it's going to be 2 sets. You'll get 3 sets of games in the first group, and then another 3 sets of games in the next one.
Yep. And the single elimination, it just feels, I don't know, these events tend to run fairly long. The last Scout Cups we were able to do in about 4.5 hours, which is pretty decent. We expected 6. We cut it down to about 4.5 to 5, and so we're hoping about the same amount of time for this one.
Yeah, and it's just an extra set of games, really total. So I think it should definitely work out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. R1, you got any predictions based on the teams from last time? Do you think the Gas is going to hold the title? Do you think they're going to pass it on? Any kind of like early game predictions coming out of you?
So I think I certainly don't think you can discount agriculture in any of this. They played extremely well last time. They still even managed to sort of cap off their 3rd win in the final series with a win on the New Republic side, so they didn't have to lean completely on their perhaps an Imperial advantage. But if I remember correctly, they were also playing the Randalorians, who've received a little bit of support in the past couple of days. I think with some team changes and whatnot that have gone on. So I think those are still going to be the 2 to watch. But I don't know. It's anybody's game in a lot of these series, because so many of them that we saw last time around were decided by threads of health on capital ships, one way or the other.
True.
Oh yeah, out of phasing.
Remember that.
Out of phasing is just such a huge part of it, and making sure that you just can't. At a certain point, you just can't count on being able to defend when your ship is at past a certain point. So you just have to out of phase to make sure, because you might not get another attack. Just teams are so efficient at one pushing, you just have to out of phase. So yeah, we're gonna see a lot of that, and maybe some different strategies on how people do out of phase.
I mean, even when we were watching some of the other games, there's still always these odd sort of lucky opportunities that someone will get. Oh, hey, I ended up actually Goliathing a player while I was hitting that AI squad, or stuff like that, right? That can just flip the morale faster than expected and really turn the tide. So I don't know. I think right there, you could probably say there are some favorites, but I think everybody, especially coming out of the last game, have really tuned their strategies, and I think it'll be anybody's event tomorrow, this weekend.
I think so. The game itself, too, lately, it's been funny. The tweaks that they've been making to matchmaking, they really tightened it up a few weeks ago to the point where it would take us like an hour to find a game almost. Like I went from playing 2 games an hour to like barely playing 2 games in 4 hours. It was crazy. It was so frustrating. Yeah, it was very frustrating. But to be honest, I didn't mind because the alternative was that we were getting matched up with, SEALs, low-level people that we're just going to stomp through, and we're not going to get any points for doing it. So it's just not a very good place. But either way, really, like I don't know what the place is because now they've switched it back. Now they've added in a lever penalty, something that's been discussed for a long time. People kind of wanted a penalty for people dodging matches once they're in there. They've finally done it, but I don't know. Like, so you've still got like these games with 1 point. I just wish there was like a minimum point that you could get, like 10 points, because it's frustrating to win 10 games and then lose 1, and you just, even the 10 wins, you can't make up the points that you lost. So I don't know. It's a tough place when that's the situation for a lot of people.
No, it's a good call. That ranked climb is always a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
I think I managed to make it into Legend 4 by the end of the last one. But even then, it was, after a lot of folks had already gotten Galactic Ace, sort of the last couple weeks, it was much easier to find a match and sort of advance ahead.
Yeah, I mean, last season the last operation. I mean, rather, it was amazing. It was still good. I feel like it was possible. This one, it just doesn't seem possible at all. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think I'm still in the hero ranks these days. Because you're right. It is such a slippery slope of back and forth as you go through some of these matches.
And yeah, if I'm only playing 15 games in a week too, it's like pretty hard to make any dent for anything. But I played tons of. I mean, that's the thing. There's lots of private matches. There is people on, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the player base numbers, which are a lot of people will look to the Steam charts, which have been kind of, like I was mentioning earlier, down a bit lately. I mean, I could look right now. I mean, it's late at night, and
1 a.m. on a Thursday, probably not going to be the best time to find a match.
Yeah, but it's like you can just see the downward trend of the game. January, there was a lot of growth in December, and even January, considering, like, looking back, it is down. It's hard to gauge what percentage of the overall community player base is on Steam. I would wager 10 to 25%, so if that's at low peaks 200 people, the game is still 1,000 to 2,000 people at the lowest times. I would wager somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's it is definitely easier to get a game, or at least maybe since the last patches these days. And obviously, they're still trying to make the games as competitive as possible. I think they've at least tried. Yeah. They've been more competitive than they maybe were originally, right? I mean, heck, even just with old man dad squad that I was rolling around with, we had a win rate of like 88% because we would just get matched up against folks that we're low level, and then all of a sudden things changed and matchmaking was better. All the games were sweaty, but then it's like, oh, okay, well, Dad Squad doesn't do so good anymore.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're right. It's a balanced game, and I think the problem is because the player base is so small, it's hard to find the good matchups, right? So less players, less, you've kind of got to match up with who's searching at that moment. So it does, like, it starts tight and then it opens up, and yeah, I don't know. From my perspective, it is whatever it is. I think like they should just have like a minimum that you can lose for a loss and a minimum that you can gain from a win.
That's fair.
Yeah, just so it doesn't get too crazy. Then I think too, because I mean, the game right now. This is interesting because of from what I'm talking to a lot of people. What the consensus seems to be is that the game needs to be free to play. Like that kind of a model is the only way to add new players, and you need new players to help the player base that exists find games and play games. So you need new players somewhat to build up the base. So you need those people coming in, and the only way to get those people coming in is a free-to-play game.
Well, they are going into cahoots with Xbox here, coming up pretty soon, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. So Xbox had just announced that. Let me take a look here at the release that the. I can't get to it. 1 second. I'm just going to bring it up. So Xbox has their Game Pass, and within Game Pass you can have EA Access, which is EA's app through different. I think you have it on PC as well, but it gives you games to try and games you can have for free. So previously, Squadrons would just be an 8-hour trial that you would have to pay for afterwards, but now it's going to be a full game that you can download through that app on Xbox or PC. So that should add a bunch of players into the game now with something like that.
Right, it's across all the console and PC platforms. So you've got an Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam PC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a good way to manage, and try to pull in some of those additional players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And heck, I think a lot of folks, you're right, are saying, hey, this was the perfect opportunity to make a. Not minorly. I think a lot of game companies have learned from microtransactions missteps over the course of the past several years. EA, not, probably being the most offending of these.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is the one where everybody was like, "Oh, this would be perfect for this kind of thing. You could totally support the game. It would be free to play.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes it fits that business model, if you want to call it that, perfectly."
I think it needs to follow like a Warzone style model. To me, like a battle pass that maybe you pay for. Cosmetics is what you're grinding for. But they didn't need to be they didn't need component grinds where you need like the double ion bomb that does twice the damage, or I don't know, whatever dumb thing they would put in. Like, I mean, people would go crazy for that stuff, but it could have just been like, for instance, there's the cosmetic where you have like stripes on your ship, but they're only yellow. They could have done, a million different color variations on that and just released it along the way, you know what I mean? And people would love that if you're whatever, Red Squadron or Gold Squadron or whatever you would want that color, like, so I mean, just all those little things that have it for each ship or whatever. There's just an infinite amount of things you could grind, just variations on things that exist that, I don't know. It's a bummer that they didn't do more with that.
I will give them, credit for it. I think the folks at Motive have done a spectacular job in sort of making this a stepwise thing. Like, hey, maybe my goal is to eventually get to there, but I've got to convince a lot of people along the way. Let me go ahead and do this, free download for a VR, set up in Battlefront 4 years ago. And now we're going to release a game, but it's, hey, the business hey, it's just $40. It's a low cost game, but also it's amazing. And, you sell 1 million copies of it. And now EA's okay, this all makes sense now. Okay, sure. Now you've convinced us with money, which, hey, that's the way it goes sometimes.
True.
Now we're all in. Now show us what you can do.
And I wonder if them losing the exclusive license is going to help that happen or make that tougher to happen. I don't know which way it'll go for that reason.
Boy, that's I love those kinds of things. I've a little bit of the nerd side of me, right? I'm an economics major and graduate, and I love what can competition do or not do for this? Honestly, at least for us, right, the consumer, all it's going to do is get us a better product. So I'm all in for it. Let's throw that license around. Let's get some good games.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that Ubisoft has this game coming out that's in development that seems like it's gonna be the next Star Wars game. So we'll see what it is. Like, who knows? Maybe it could have a flight component, and maybe it would be something for the Squadrons community. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still life left in this game, and there's still a lot of excitement. See, I feel like, like we said earlier, these community events, them happening is probably what's going to be driving the community for the next while, and it's kind of on the community to teach new pilots the game. Now, the thing is, this game has been out for, 5 months now, and I've been playing the game pretty much daily since its release. The things that I've learned through that trial and error of that 5 months is completely learnable, and we just don't know what we knew now in the last month. Like, you could learn this game, you could become very competitive in 2 weeks of playing this game, basically, if you learn the right way. We would learn the power management tool skills that are out there that, Fenkar, Skalpwaka, that different people are putting out these YouTube videos. You know, Avenger One's doing a lot of stuff. Like, there's people making content that you can really learn this game and be competitive very fast. Like, if you're not, the subreddit, you know, the different compendiums, Wikipedia or whatever, the competitive Squadrons subreddit, like all these different avenues for and knowledge bases. There's no excuse not to learn the advanced power management skills if you, and I don't mean advanced power, I mean just the better power management skills that people have, the competitive players watching Twitch streams. You can definitely learn if you want to, very fast.
I agree. I mean, it's something. Heck, on my little HOTAS that I have for the PlayStation, it's I know that my reflexes aren't as good, and I'll watch some folks with different setups go through different iterations of, okay, well, I'm only using basic power management because it's faster for me, it's easier for me, it's smoother for me. And then they'll make the jump, and then they'll invent a new way to run their power management where now they're sliding completely between different things. You know, they might be making 2-3 clicks, but they're now making them fast enough. They've got the reflexes built that it works almost exactly like everything else, like that basic power management, if you will. But they're taking it to a new level.
And I think
that's where it really that's where there's all that skill. And you're right, it's something you could pick up. It's hell. I could learn that better than I could learn StarCraft micros. So yeah.
Oh, definitely. There's a. I mean, I mean, even Rocket League. I mean, now at this point, like, I mean, the game. Just thinking now about how we flew in the fall and stuff. The game was just like someone who plays the game now. If they went to the game in the fall, they would just be like this crazy, crazy.
Oh right. No kidding.
Pardon me. Sorry.
I was just agreeing with you. You're absolutely right. I think, the tactics and the skills that we use, when the game first launched, or even that first month, they're just not the same. They're unparalleled compared to what was going on originally. But it's good. I think it shows a healthy advancement in the top tiers of the game, and you can see a lot of that sort of trickle down to the rest of the community. Heck, after the first Cal Cup, I was trying to dumbfire Goliath missiles into AI swarms because I was like, "Oh, well, this is a thing. Son of a gun. Let's try it. Let's do it."
And we are going to see. That's the thing. We're going to see such advanced play. People know it's not going to be just Gas who knows the dumbfire routes. It's so many people who know the dumbfire routes, and people who know the dumbfire. People are making videos on it. Shout out to, oh my gosh, I forgot who made the video now. I know Meaty Yogurt just put one out, but someone else put out a video as well. I can't find it right now. I feel so bad that I can't drop it. But they're basically showing the dumbfire routes that you need to take on a few different maps. So people are also going to know this and then be able to cut off the dumbfires. So there's going to be these different counter strategies. We've definitely seen that. People have shot down our Goliaths on the way. So there's these counter strategies as well, and you don't want to cut people off. And of course, there's these mask and beacons openings that are just basically the meta that almost everyone's going to be doing off the start. So it's going to be very interesting to see at the highest level who's going to be able to counter those as well, because flips can happen like so fast against teams who know the dumbfire.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's such an advantage. But at the same time, defenses are a lot better. So it's tougher to capitalize on that first attack phase, and a lot of teams who don't win the opening can still win the game by having a strong defense and then a great offense once they do get on attack. So I mean, it's still, there's still some give and take there as well. Of course, the opening isn't everything.
No, I would agree, and in fact, I think you could even argue in some cases, right, intentionally losing that opening, but not by much, right? Just seeing that timeout, but by giving your opponent maybe just half a bar of morale, you can turn that around fast enough so that your opening salvo now is your opening phase is so much longer, and you're able to be much more destructive with it than you would be with that half opening phase. So no, it's great to me because we can it's something to cast the comment on. That's always good stuff. But B, like, it represents some real, like, strategic level decision making. It's not just about who can I shoot down, how and can I shoot you down faster than you can shoot me down. It's what are the key decisions that I need to make in the game so that I can ultimately be victorious.
Now, looking down the road a little bit too. In one of these posts that they've put out, there's kind of a roadmap ahead for the game. Now, operations are going to continue on indefinitely on 8-week cycles, basically, with rewards at the end of them still. But the last of the content drops, they've said, are happening on May the 4th. So that kind of does give a finality to the game, and I think probably why they're moving it to the free or to the Game Pass now. Like, they're moving it sort of to a freer sort of model at least. There's still sort of you still have to pay for whatever $5 for the thing, or it's included for EA Access, or it's included with the $5 for Game Pass. So, it's a really small cost of entry now, or once that launches, and you get so much with it. So I do hope that adds to the player base, because I feel like, yeah, without new content coming in and it's kind of official, you know what I mean? That's what the game is. I don't want to call it a sunsetting. When I messaged Charlemagne, he said it's not sunsetting as well, so I won't say that, but it's definitely like, that's it. That's kind of it for the game, right? After that.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, it's interesting, at least from our standpoint, right? Because we know that we want to continue playing games like this, right? So it does leave some openings, right? Obviously, if you want to develop something new, something different, if you are going to develop, Squadrons 2, right? The whatever sequel you want to throw onto this type of thing, then you got to shift your development that way. You can't just you can't prop up this one forever and also make sure you're creating a new product that's going to be better than the last one. So I think, I don't know, my hopes are up. I'm very optimistic. I think given the business success that Squadrons has had, I think EA knows that the Squadrons they have now has limited additional value, if you want to say it, right? Okay, we're going to put it on the free pass, and hey, yeah, we'll get some more players. We'll make sure the player base is happy, because they want to continue some of that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But they also want to start working on that next best thing as fast as they can.
I mean, and it's hard for me to, be anything but thankful to Motive. They made an amazing game. It's my favorite game of the decade, easily. Not this decade,
sure.
The previous decade. Not saying a year, I'm saying that last 10 years. It's just so good. So I don't mean to be critical of it. I just want so much more. I'm on the drip, and I just give me more here. That's all. That's the only reason. Yeah. So I just get excited. I know that's not going to happen. I know that's probably just unrealistic of me to think that they could do anything that way, but I would love it. And I just try to be realistic. It's on the community. Like I said earlier, Cow Cup, SCL, also things like Grey Squadron is doing the Gravy Nights on Wednesday and Saturday. They have captains doing drafts of all the players who are there. It runs for hours, and there's matchups on it. Those kind of things are huge for the community, and for teaching new players. Those different flight academies. They have a Grey, a Crate. Who else does Imperial? They have different flight schools too. That if you want to learn the game, there's a lot of avenues to do so. So I hope that people do keep coming in and do learn the game, and the player base does grow. That is my hope for it.
I think it's interesting that the oh good.
Oh no, you go for it, my dude.
I was just going to say I think it's interesting that it's built off a modified Frostbite engine, which is one of the more protected engines, right? If this was a even an Unreal game, potentially we'd be looking at mods on the Nexus right now, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's interesting the modding scene that could transform Squadrons into God knows what, ongoing campaigns of attacks where you take over systems, whatever. Mm-hmm. Who knows what different modders could do, but it's weird when you have EA anti-cheat and it's a multiplayer game. A lot of that stuff isn't it's not really a thing. If this was a single player game, I think the modding scene would be all over it and would have cracked into Frostbite like an egg. But because it's got the anti-cheat software installed with how it runs the game, you can't really bypass that. So it's a shame, but it'd be interesting to think about what a modding world would look like.
Is that something that they would have to release some sort of a toolkit or something for people to be able to do any sort of mod? So exactly. That seems like almost outside of the realm of possibility from what I've seen. If they're not adding in any new components, it seems maybe that would be the last thing that they could ever do. I don't know. What is the likelihood of that?
Well, it's interesting that even GTA 5 is like 10 years old now, but the RP servers, the modding scene is kept alive for 10 years after release, and people are still buying it for full pop price.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you never know, and that's the thing. Like, just because a game's player base gets lower, it doesn't mean it can't come back up. I noticed a lot of excitement too on the Xbox subreddit just for this announcement of Squadrons being. I wouldn't have thought it was the top of that subreddit. So it did. I mean, there's people who are excited for it. There's definitely people who are going to try out the game for it. I just hope. Part of me wonders, like, no, Motive, put back the matchmaking for when they come. Don't make me play these people. Don't make me give them a terrible experience, right? Like, we don't gotta let them fall in love with the game.
Yeah.
We want them
that's always been an interesting conundrum where you want to make sure that folks have a good time. You also want to, it's also a competitive game. You still want to win at the end of the day. You certainly, if you're trying to climb that slippery slope of an SR rank, you definitely don't want to lose 300 points in a match because you lost to a bunch of guys still in placement. But you still want to have you want to be able to build that community, and I do think, at least from what I've seen, there does seem to be there's still a steady trickle of new folks coming in, and I think they are better equipped maybe now than they were previously to find the right places to learn how to play the game. You're like Gray and Crate had some very early like science leagues, and hey, this is Squadrons night, and a bunch of folks that may only play casually will now all get together to play custom games with each other, and there'll be 50 people on 10 different teams playing custom games with each other, and winning stuff like silly prizes or badges and patches and stuff like that. It's great. It's those types of communities and things like that that'll keep this game going long term, I'm sure.
I think so. Well, I think that's
Agreed.
Pretty much everything for this episode. Green Fox, any last words here?
No, I think I'm pretty good go. R1, thanks for coming by and talking Squadrons with us for a while. It was awesome having you on.
Yeah, man, I love it. Thanks.
Very excited to hear you cast the event this weekend, buddy. And yeah, thank you for being on again. Do you have any shout-outs you want to give for social media or anything?
No, nothing like that. Go Savrip.
What about you, Twitch? Do you cast on Twitch still for the tabletop stuff?
Oh, occasionally I do. We'll see as we get into some of the single elimination stuff for Invader League 6. You can spot them at invaderleague.com. There's an Invader League Discord as well you can join. You'd see all the stuff that's there. You can occasionally catch me cast at twitch.com/R1H4. But tomorrow or this weekend you'll see me on the gaming studio.
Wicked, man. Thank you so much for being on this episode of the podcast. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, write a review, all that stuff on iTunes. 5 is the number of stars you should give it. Thanks a lot for checking out, and we will see you next time on the Star Wars Squadrons podcast.